Great experiences don't build themselves.
Behind every personalized journey is complexity, tools, teams, and tech.
AI moves fast. Expectations move faster.
Adobe Experience Cloud offers the power, but strategy turns potential into performance.
This is the AEM Analytics Consulting's Adobe at Scale podcast.
Subscribe, align your stack, accelerate your enterprise. You're listening to our Adobe at Scale podcast, where we demystify the Adobe Experience Cloud and turn enterprise complexity into clarity. Hosted by experts from AEM Analytics Consulting. Let's get into it.
Welcome. Today we're doing a deep dive into something really critical for organizations investing heavily in powerful cloud platforms like Adobe Experience Platform.
That's right.
Specifically, we're honing in on optimizing Adobe Real-Time CDP performance, and maybe even more importantly for the leaders listening, how to spot and avoid those, subtle pitfalls that can quietly drain your ROI.
Exactly. Our discussion today draws on, extensive experience and insights around fixing Adobe RT-CDP misconfigurations. These aren't just theoretical problems. They're real-world obstacles stopping companies getting the full strategic value from their customer data.
Right. So our mission here is to give you, whether you're evaluating tech value from the C-suite, you're in the MarTech team making it happen, or you're an implementation partner, the key insights. Insights you need to ensure your RT-CDP setup isn't just ticking over, but actually delivering those business outcomes you expect, avoiding those silent performance drains, and crucially, managing compliance risks.
Adobe RT-CDP, built on Adobe Experience Platform, is designed for incredible things. Unified profiles, smart segmentation, activating personalized experiences across channels, fast. But as our insights show, that power and flexibility, it can lead to missteps if you're not careful with configuration.
Yeah.
And the worrying part, these problems often don't shout with error messages. The system looks like it's working, but it's silently underperforming.
Yes, that phrase really resonated, the silent killer of CDP ROI. It's not a crash, it's just failure to deliver the expected lift, quietly costing money and opportunity.
So let's start with why this happens.
Right.
Why do misconfigurations occur?
Good question.
Well, the platform's modularity, its customizability, which are strengths, letting it adapt to complex needs, they also inherently create chances for errors during setup or even later on.
It's like having a high-performance engine, but if the parts aren't perfectly tuned and connected, you just don't get the power you should.
Precisely. Our insights flag a few common culprits. Issues like partial data ingestion, or mapping errors, data not coming in right or not linking up. Misaligned merge policies, that's a huge one impacting the unified profile goal.
Right.
Then there's governance enforcement that happens silently, blocking things without clear alerts. And sometimes, teams rely too much on older batch processes when the platform's built for real time.
And the insidious part, as the insights suggest, is that without actively looking, doing proactive audits or health checks, these problems often fly under the radar.
Yeah.
Teams running campaigns might have no idea until, much later when key business metrics just aren't moving, like customer lifetime value or ROAS staying flat.
That's usually when the questions start, which brings us to spotting the problem. Our insights lay out the top 5 signs that your RT-CDP might be misconfigured and quietly holding you back. Recognizing these is really the first step.
Okay, let's get into those top 5 symptoms. For each, let's talk about the root cause identified in the insights, the fix, and, importantly for everyone listening, the potential business impact.
Sounds good. Symptom number 1 from our insights. Real-time activation feels slow.
Okay.
Teams expect near-instant activation for things like, say, cart abandonment responses or reacting to a product view, but it feels sluggish. It's not impacting the user in the moment.
That does sound counterintuitive for a platform with real time in its name. What's going on there?
Well, the root cause, surprisingly often, is about expectation versus actual setup. RT-CDP can do real time, but the default segment update cycle, that's typically 15 to 60 minutes. Unless you specifically configure and use the platform's edge segmentation capabilities. So teams expecting sub-minute speed are often building segments that rely on those slower batch updates, not the real-time streams available at the edge.
So the potential is there, but the configuration is forcing it down a slower path. What's the fix then?
The fix is about using the architecture correctly for those speed-critical use cases. The insights recommend integrating Adobe Edge Network with the Web SDK.
Okay.
That combination allows for real-time profile updates and evaluation right at the edge, instant qualification. Then, of course, you need to adjust your segments to use those streaming attributes from the edge.
Makes sense.
And for really fast, low latency stuff like immediate cart abandonment emails or maybe personalized on-site offers, the insights suggest using tools like Adobe Journey Optimizer. It's built for those instant triggers, rather than trying to force batch CDP syncs downstream.
That's a key point, using the right tool for the job based on the latency needed. Okay, symptom number 2.
Symptom number 2, duplicate or orphan profiles are common. This is fundamental. Your view of a single customer gets fractured.
Oh, right.
You might see profile A from web activity, profile B from an email address, profile C from the CRM ID, all for the same person.
And the business impact there is huge, isn't it? Wasted ad spend, mixed messages, no real understanding of customer value.
Absolutely massive. According to our insights, the root cause is usually incomplete or misaligned identity mapping. If key identifiers think ECD from web or mobile, hashed emails, your CRM ID aren't consistently present and correctly linked in the datasets you feed into AEP, then the identity service just can't stitch them together properly. You get fragments, not a unified view.
So the data might exist somewhere, but the system doesn't know how to connect the dots for a lot of your customers.
Exactly. The fix starts with a proper audit of your identity graphs in the Adobe Identity Service. See where it's working and where it's failing.
Okay.
And crucially, the insights emphasize making sure every dataset going into AEP has at least one declared identity namespace that's part of your merge strategy. Then you need to really look at and configure your merge policies.
Defining the rules.
Yes, defining which ID takes priority when. Like maybe the CRM ID is primary for known customers to ensure their purchase history links up with their online behavior.
Getting identity right seems absolutely fundamental for a CDP. What's symptom 3?
Symptom number 3. Audience delivery doesn't match segment size. This one causes a lot of frustration.
I can imagine.
You build a segment, the dashboard says, 1.5 million profiles. But when you send it to your DSP or ESP, maybe only 800,000 actually arrive.
Ouch. That directly hits campaign reach and potential revenue. Why the gap?
This can be tricky because, as the insights mention, AEP might not give you a big flashing warning saying why profiles got dropped.
The silent killer again.
Exactly. The causes vary. Maybe you're hitting activation limits on the destination platform or size limits in the CDP activation setup, but a very common silent culprit: governance enforcement.
Compliance kicking in.
Yes, profiles getting silently blocked because they lack the right data usage labels or they violate some policy. Like inconsistent labeling of marketing consent data is a classic one.
So the platform is doing its job enforcing rules, which is good, but maybe too quietly, leaving teams scratching their heads about the lower reach.
Precisely. It enforces policy, but maybe lacks that immediate feedback loop for the activator. The fix requires proactive digging using the platform tools.
Like what?
The insights stress checking the destination monitoring logs in AEP regularly. Those logs often have the details on failure rates or why profiles were blocked. And you absolutely have to ensure correct data usage labels, C11 for consent, MKTG for marketing, whatever your policies demand are applied consistently across your datasets.
Right.
The insights also mention maybe optimizing how often you export or consolidating overlapping audiences to avoid hitting those destination limits.
So keeping a close eye on those governance logs is crucial. What about symptom 4?
Symptom number 4, segments feel too generic and campaign performance is flat. Basically, your CDP-powered campaigns aren't really delivering the lift you expected in ROAS, click-throughs, conversions.
The segments are maybe just basic demographics.
Often, yes. Or simple static attributes. It feels like you're not really tapping into the intelligence promise of the CDP.
It really does. What's the root cause there?
The insights point to underutilizing or completely skipping powerful features like computed attributes. Teams aren't transforming that rich, raw data, click screens, purchases, interactions sitting in AEP into actionable intelligence for defining smarter audiences.
So you have all this granular detail about what people do, but you're not summarizing it into things like recent high spender or frequent category browser.
Exactly that. You've got the ingredients but aren't making the dish. The fix is to actively create and use computed attributes.
Examples.
The insights give good ones. Calculating total purchases last 30 days, measuring time since last interaction for recency, deriving high-value product affinity. You use logic like count, synem, most recent, average within AP to build these scores.
Okay.
Once you have those, you can build truly dynamic segments based on behavior recency, frequency, monetary value, which leads to much more personalized, effective campaigns. That's how you move the needle on business metrics.
That makes total sense, directly linking the technical capability to better targeting and results. Okay, final one, symptom number 5.
Symptom number 5. Campaigns are unexpectedly blocked due to governance policies. This links back to symptom 3, but it's more focused on the specific rules causing the block. The symptom is straightforward. Certain activations, maybe whole campaigns using specific data, just fail. They don't run, or very few profiles get delivered, and it's not obvious why from the main activation screen.
Again, that silent aspect. Plan the campaign, built the audience, clicked activate, and maybe nothing happens, or very little.
Exactly. The root cause, as reinforced by the insights, is that strict enforcement of data governance rules within AEP and RT-CDP. These policies, based on your internal rules, regulations like GDPR, CCPA, contracts, dictate how data can be used.
Right.
If data in your segment is missing the right usage labels needed by a policy tied to where you're trying to send it, or it violates some other constraint, the platform will silently block it or filter out those non-compliant profiles.
So if I try to email a segment, but the email addresses aren't properly labeled as okay for marketing contact according to the policy, the platform just drops them.
That's a very common scenario, yes. It's doing its job protecting data usage, but without clear, proactive alerts for the campaign owner, it just looks like a silent failure.
So the fix must involve managing that governance proactively.
Absolutely. The insights strongly recommend regularly checking the blocking events in the data governance section, specifically under policy enforcement. That's where the system logs why things were blocked.
Got it.
You have to ensure consent, regulation, marketing labels are defined, correctly applied at the dataset level for everything coming into AEP. And critically, map your activation channels only to datasets verified as compliant for that channel's policies.
It's clear that getting governance right isn't just a checkbox. It's fundamental to actually using the platform for activation.
And that loops us back to the core message from our insights. These misconfigurations are usually the main reason CDP projects underperform. And because they're silent, they're hard to spot without looking specifically for them. The RT-CDP doesn't necessarily break down, it just doesn't deliver the strategic ROI because it's not tuned right.
So just assuming everything's fine because there are no big red error messages, that's a big risk. The real errors are the missing business results.
Precisely. Which highlights why you need proactive measures. You need continuous collaboration between the implementation team, the internal MarTech folks managing data, and the campaign owners using the audiences.
A shared understanding.
Yes, and a shared CDP governance framework.
Yeah.
Not just for data use, but for checking configuration health, doing maintenance. That's key for long-term value.
To make this really concrete, the insights included a case study, right? A media tech firm.
Yes, a very compelling one that illustrates the impact of fixing these silent issues.
Real examples are always so helpful for understanding the stakes. What was their situation?
It was a B2C tech brand. They'd rolled out Adobe RT-CDP across 3 business units. Big investment, technical deployment done, but campaign performance was just flat. Flat ROAS, disappointing engagement. They weren't getting the lift they expected from having a CDP.
I suspect that might sound familiar to some people listening. What did they find when they dug into the configuration?
The audit findings, detailed in the insights, were pretty stark. They found a staggering 45% of their profiles were unstitched between mobile and web.
Wow, nearly half.
Think about that. Almost half their customer view was fragmented. True personalization. Frequency capping. Impossible for those users. They also found 0 computed attributes were being used.
None at all.
None. All that rich behavioral data was just sitting there, untapped for segmentation. And, confirming the governance point, 2 of their main activation destinations were silently blocking profiles or segments because of missing or wrong governance labels on the data.
Those are deep foundational problems. They definitely kill performance. What specific fixes did they implement?
Based on that audit, they did several key things. Enabled a full merge policy across UCIT and CRM IDs, finally stitching profiles together. They prioritized creating computed attributes focused on engagement recency and product affinity.
Getting that behavioral intelligence.
Exactly. And crucially, they did a full review and update of consent and marketing usage labels across all their relevant data sets in AEP, ensuring compliance, enabling proper activation.
And the results, did fixing those configurations actually move the business metrics?
The results were significant, really showing the ROI that was locked up. The insights report a plus 31% improvement in the segment match rate,
Huge.
meaning their audiences actually reached way more of the intended people. They saw a plus 18% jump in click-through rates on their personalized email journeys directly from using those new behavioral segments.
That's impressive.
And overall, they cut audience duplication by 37%. More efficient spend, better customer experience.
Those numbers really tell the story. It proves that correcting the underlying setup can turn the CDP from, well, an underperforming asset into a real growth driver.
It's powerful proof that the investment in RT-CDP is just step one. Unlocking the value comes from precise, proactive configuration and ongoing care, understanding these common pitfalls.
Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive, maybe a quick recap. The core links between the symptoms and the solutions we discussed, like a quick checklist from the insights.
Sure, good idea. So if activation feels slow, likely cause is not using edge segmentation. Fix is shifting to WebSDK and edge.
Right.
Seeing duplicate or orphaned profiles. Likely identity merge issues. Fix is auditing IDs, ECE CRM, and refining merge policies.
Okay.
Audience delivery lower than segment size. Investigate governance blocks or destination limits. Fix involves checking monitoring logs and data labels. Segments feel generic, performance flat. Likely not using behavioral intelligence. Fix is introducing computed attributes based on engagement.
Makes sense.
And campaigns silently blocked.
Yeah.
Often missing or wrong governance labels. Fix is applying labels correctly and checking policy enforcement logs regularly.
That's a great, concise summary, a really useful starting point for anyone wanting to diagnose their own setup.
So in closing, the main takeaway from our source material is pretty clear. Misconfiguration isn't some minor technical detail. It's often the primary reason CDP initiatives don't hit their strategic goals or deliver the expected ROI.
Yeah.
The power of Adobe Real-Time CDP really depends on getting that configuration precise and maintaining it proactively.
And the insights we've walked through today offer a clear path for diagnosis, a checklist, really, to find and fix these common, often silent performance blockers.
Absolutely. And tackling these issues effectively, whether you're still planning, mid-rollout, or already live, it often takes specialized expertise. Things like platform audits, strategic reconfiguration, activation consulting.
Right, getting the data flowing correctly and compliantly.
It's an investment, but as that case study showed, it's one that can pay back significantly in business performance.
Well, we really hope this deep dive into these critical insights has been valuable for you and your teams as you work on optimizing your Adobe Real-Time CDP investments and truly unlocking that customer data potential.
And if you did find our discussion valuable today, please feel free to share your thoughts or perhaps leave a comment.
Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.